What's going on, everybody? This week, AWS OnAir is on the road again here at the Miami Grand Prix with F1 and Ferrari. We're going to give you guys a sneak peek behind the curtain and how we're accelerating innovation, what is already the fastest sport in the world. And here to help me do that is the incomparable Ruth Buscombe here. Ruth, can you give a quick introduction for our audience back home?
Hi, I'm Ruth Buscombe. I think this is my 14th season in Formula One. So I started many moons ago as an engineer working in simulation at Scuderia Ferrari, living in Italy. I was there for 4 years and then moved over to be a strategy engineer and head of race strategy at Haas F1 team, and then 8 seasons with Alfa Romeo Sauber. And then last year I joined Formula One, where I now work with AWS and all the cool folks back in Formula One to help bring all the on-track action, the insights, the data, all the good geeky stuff to the folks at home, both in terms of the graphics and in terms of commentary with F1 TV.
Perfect. So for those of you following at home, basically Ruth is who I want to be when I grow up. So Ruth, let's get into you're obviously the expert on F1. What's your role within this AWS partnership?
So I am the AWS technical advisor and Motorsports brand ambassador, which is a really cool way of saying I get to hang out with all the awesome people in AWS, not just bringing those insights that AWS make to life, but also helping them develop them, making sure that Formula One know exactly what insight to use and when to bring all the action to the folks back at home on screen. And of course, getting to come to Miami and hang out with you.
I mean, obviously Miami's awesome. I'm going to take that as a personal compliment as well. Why don't we get rolling?
Yeah, I need to actually show you around the paddock.
All right, let's go.
Let's go.
All right, perfect. So Ruth, I can't tell you how excited I've been for this episode of AWS OnAir. As a lifelong F1 and Ferrari fan, I was ecstatic when I realized we had partnerships with them. So we have this partnership with Formula One, we have this partnership with Ferrari. We're diving into both today. What are some of the major projects that our audience is going to get to see today?
Wow, great question. So I think the biggest one that not just your audience, but everyone gets to see are the F1 insights powered by AWS, which actually generate the on-screen graphics you see that are bringing battles on track to life. We're bringing projected overtakes. They're bringing pit stop battles to life. There's so many different ways in which the data is really being brought to the fans through the power of AWS, leveraging all these really cool AI techniques.
Yeah, my family loves it. Getting into the F1 for the first time, I finally got my parents to watch it. They love F1 Insights powered by AWS.
It's so cool, right? And then we've got Track Pulse, which helps us in terms of the broadcast. You've got the pit stop analysis working on with the Scuderia Ferrari team. You know, we've even got real-time racetrack. But wait a minute, I don't want to just tell you these things. I want to show you them. And I think I actually have to set you up with a chat with the Dean Locke.
The Dean Locke, isn't he head of broadcast?
He's head of everything. He's pretty much head of everything.
Okay, I appreciate that.
I think he's a great person for you to talk to find out exactly how AWS is being used in the F1 broadcast.
That'd be fantastic. He's on the paddock here, right?
Yeah, I think we should be able to go find him.
All right, so before we do that, I have one more question for you. You're our AWS brand ambassador. Obviously, you're the expert in this sport. You've been around for forever, had so many different roles. We've been partners since 2018. We just went over a couple of the projects we've done recently, but what are some of the ones that we did in years past, maybe from 2018 to like 2024?
Well, my personal favorite, because I got to benefit from it as a race strategist, as a head of race strategy, was the 2022 F1 car design, which then influenced the new set of regulations that came in 2022. And that set of regulations actually meant that the cars were able to follow closer, and we got 30% more overtaking.
Wow.
Which, for me, sat on the pit wall as head of race strategy, and for all of the Formula One drivers out there actually going racing, was pretty awesome. So I think the helping hand that AWS gave there, I'd say that's my personal favorite.
I mean, that's pretty cool. And that's something I noticed as a fan, was there did seem to be noticeably more overtakes. I didn't realize, even as an AWS employee, that came from our car redesign. So that's pretty
impressive. And did you know, in the 2024 Canadian Grand Prix, where AWS was the title sponsor, we actually also had the world's first Formula One trophy designed by AI.
Wow,
where the prompts were based not only on local elements of Montreal, but also based on the plume that comes out the back of a Formula One car, which was part of the car design regulations that enabled overtaking, and the race was won by an overtake, is brilliant.
That worked out perfectly. And that makes sense for the design too. So it's the kind of the aerodynamic wind coming off the car.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, okay, that trophy design was really cool. Now I feel like it's even cooler.
It is very, and it's actually gorgeous as well. I'd say it's one of my favorites.
Well, I cannot wait to dive into all this more with you, with Dean, talking about these F1 insights powered by AWS, talking about track pulse. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I think I saw him this way, so I'm going to go introduce you.
All right, let's go get him. All right, guys, welcome back. You'll notice we've got two new people here, one of whom is muted right now, so she should probably come off of mute. We've got Mike and Keely. They are the F1 and Ferrari experts here at AWS. They're joining us live from where, Mike?
Maranello, Italy, Ferrari headquarters.
Yeah, just rubbing that in. Keely's being very subtle with her imagery there to let us know where she's being. But guys, why don't you quick give us an introduction as to who you are and what you do for AWS?
Sure. So, hello everyone. Mike Agata. I'm the head of Motorsports partnerships for AWS. And Nick, Jeff, thanks so much for having me. Big fans, long-time listeners, long-time listener, first-time video caller. So, really appreciate you having me in.
You stole my line. I'm Keely O'Neill. I'm a senior sports marketing manager here at AWS. And so I support the F1 and Ferrari partnerships as a marketer. And if you hear engine noises, that's what that is, because I'm sitting in a right next to a garage. So fun fact.
Man, just continually rubbing it in even more. I like it. Okay. Well, guys, they're joining us from the Ferrari headquarters in Maranello. Where is everybody else watching from? It looks like we've got some people from Texas.
I saw California earlier.
California, San Juan, Puerto Rico, LA, Bangladesh. Got a worldwide audience here, which means I think we're going to have fans of every different team. So let us know who you're a fan of. Let us know where you're watching from. And Keely, Stace is very jealous. I think we all are, of you just having a full-size car on your office.
Yeah, that won't fit in my hand luggage on the way home, I don't think. So I can't take it home, unfortunately.
All right, and we got somebody coming from Napoli, where love is king, as well. So that's pretty cool. So guys, let's dive into these partnerships, though.
Yeah, Keely and Mike, I'm a huge F1 fan and really excited to work with AWS. And I was watching FP1 and FP2 this morning and seeing a bunch of AWS signage around the track. So I'm really excited to hear from you guys all about the partnership, kind of how it started, and just get some more information about it.
Yeah, sounds good. So AWS has been involved in sports partnerships for a while. And, we typically partner with top teams and leagues globally. As you heard from Ruth earlier, we signed our partnership with Formula One in 2018, and we signed our partnership with Ferrari in 2021. The reason we did that was all about kind of understanding the kind of draw that Formula One brings. And Formula One is the most data-driven sport. So there's 300 sensors on the car. Over 1.1 million data points are taken off that car per second. So obviously times that by 20 with each one of the teams. So from an AWS perspective, our messaging is simple. We take that data, we visualize it, we process it using machine learning, and our intent is to make a complex sport simple to understand.
Gotcha. It's so cool. And what stood out to me, and what I don't know why I didn't process at first, is more than really any other sport, F1 is based on data and engineering. I felt like this was such a cool partnership, and I love seeing it come to life. Specifically, as a little bit of a physics nerd, I loved seeing the car design stuff, the car design project that Ruth mentioned in that video earlier. So I'd love to dive into that a little bit more. What exactly happened there? What did we do? How did we do it? And how did we somehow get involved in the making of F1 car designs?
Yeah, that was a super cool project. So in the 2022 to 2026 car design at the time sat with Formula One, and they worked with us on a problem statement, which was, how do we improve wheel-to-wheel racing? How do we make the sport more exciting? And the intent, the idea behind that was, how do we structure and kind of design the car in a way where we were able to kind of solve that? So we used computational fluid dynamics, which is essentially kind of the computed graphic generation of liquid and gases, kind of if you think about the aerodynamic wake over the car, ran millions of simulations in parallel using high performance computing. And what we discovered very quickly was that the existing car design was pushing the aerodynamic wake down, which meant that if a car was approaching an overtake, there was a kind of a pocket of what we call dirty air. So that kind of reduced the downforce on the car behind, which made it a lot harder for it to overtake. So using AWS and using computational fluid dynamics and high performance computing on AWS rather than on-premise allowed them to run multiple thousands of these simulations in parallel to kind of work out how to push the air up and away from the car behind, which means that the car approaching from behind has more downforce, which therefore means that the tires have more grip, which then allowed for an overtake. We then piloted that design. We positioned it to Formula One in 2022, and they implemented it. And as you can see from the 2022 to 2026, this season and hopefully the end of this season, there's been a lot more overtakes. And in particular, there's been 30% more overtakes as a result of this design.
Yeah, and I think we can hear some overtakes in the background there. I loved this project. I loved seeing it. There's a full deep dive on it we did with Neil Ashton last year. Hopefully our producers can throw something in the comments there. If you guys want the full breakdown of how we brought that car to life, check it out. We called it the next gen car at the time, but I guess it'd be current gen car now. And we're working on the next gen, right?
Yeah, well, the next gen is now the regulations sit with the FIA. But we've got a lot of interesting projects for Formula One coming, so please keep an eye out in the next sort of 3 to 4 years.
So excited. Yeah. Super cool to keep up with that stuff.
Yeah, Nick, one of the other thing you talked about with Ruth was the trophy, and it's almost like you used someone used CFD to help design that trophy, but it sounds like that was more AI related. Mike, can you tell us a little bit about that trophy design?
Oh yeah, that was a really cool project. So last year in Canada, the AWS Grand Prix de Canada, which was our title race, which we were a title sponsor for. So as part of our partnership, every year we get access to be a title sponsor. So this year is in Imola this weekend. Last year was in Canada. And we were fortunate enough to be able to design the trophy. And, being a tech company, we didn't want to kind of use basic methods. So we decided to use generative AI to do that. Thinking about the prompts that we use, we kind of fed it kind of influences from that aerodynamic wake that I just talked about. We provided kind of prompts from, a nod to Canada and the river that flows through Montreal through the racetrack. And using Bedrock and Amazon Titan image generator, we were able to generate the design for the first ever generative AI design trophy. We used kind of traditional silversmith methods to kind of actually develop the trophy. And if you haven't seen it, please check it out. It is a beautiful piece of work.
That's so
yeah, actually we still have we made 2 replicas. So one is in the UK at an Amazon office, and then one is in the US at the Seattle headquarters. So you can actually still take a look at it if you ever visit an office. It's pretty cool to have those nearby.
Nice. Is it on the wall? Is that what's on the wall in your office in Seattle? instead of
no, I have a different car. I have a different car, actually. One of the drivers just sits in a corner of my office.
I see. Okay. Oh man. Well, we accidentally, it looks like Jeff answered a question from Jasmine over here to tell us more about the trophy. There you go, Jasmine. And guys, in the chat, we are a live show, I promise. When we're looking over here, we're usually looking at y'all's comments. So drop them in. If you have questions for Mike or Keely as we go, they are the experts on all things F1 and Ferrari. So you guys have them for the next hour. Try to pick their brains a bit. Try to stump them. I dare you, because they're pretty good at all this stuff. But super cool to see it. So the trophy is basically the turbulence coming off the back of that car design.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of prompts that we use. There's actually a deep dive blog. So if you just search for AWS generative AI trophy, you can see the kind of detailed technical write up behind that. But yeah, we fed it prompts around kind of the aerodynamic wake. The Canada influence, the maple leaf as well. And that's what it resulted in. It kind of came out with that beautiful design. I think there was a question about the services. I think I touched on them a little bit there. So Bedrock, as well as kind of Amazon Titan Image Generator, were the kind of key services from an AWS perspective that we used.
Gotcha. All right.
That's great. So all this talk about design, CFD, we kind of started, one of the first things I mentioned was all the data analytics. And in fact, this week, the F1 Tech Talk show was all about data analytics and how the production team uses all of this data and how AWS helps that out. Nick, it sounds like you got to talk to Dean Locke, who is the head of F1 production. Let's go back to Miami and see that segment.
Yeah, let's roll it.